Hello and welcome to Pandooradom. This is your host, Miles Gray.
And I'm Paul Cradle.
Nice to
Hello,
have you all
everybody.
with us.
Yes, nice to have you. We're back on again. We've just got to keep going. I have a few things that I'd like to talk about. How about you, Miles?
Oh, yes, there's always a lot to talk about. I mean, we do have a few important items to sort of check off the list today, I think. Um, I know that
Okay.
we have a few important episodes coming up and topically in terms of topics, I mean, fascinating topics, but we also have a number of interviews coming up as well, which we'll
Yeah,
get to. Those are what we would call our
yes.
premium episodes. But I think for this
I'm trying to
episode, we're
get
just,
that lady. That lady
that's
is
right.
available.
Yes. So
So,
that's one of our premium upcoming episodes, or upcoming premium episodes. And I think at this point, though, today we're just going to be running down a few basic ideas, things that we are considering as we move forward with the show. And of course, you, the Pandora Knots, and other interested viewers of this channel, Pandooradom, please feel free in the comments to leave, what you think about these topics. If there's anything that you want us to explore in more depth, if there's something that you would like us to talk about, that you would like to interact with us about or upon, feel free and just don't hesitate. We want to hear from you. So,
oh
Paul,
yes. Which which reminds me, good segue. Have you watched the past two videos that I posted myself that on the channel? Have you checked?
cursorily, but I haven't had a chance to watch them in
Okay.
great depth.
So I finally got that guy, Pierre, who I met in Vietnam, and I did interview him about the microwave mind control stuff, and he thinks something is going on with the water pumps. So
Hmm.
it was pretty thorough. I got a lot out of him, but the thing got like 3 views, and one of them was mine. so
Hmm.
so the thing is, uh, with this stuff, it's like
Maybe
you
there's,
can't care too much. And there was a comment. Yeah, that's
but
the thing. Sorry, I have a comb in
hmm,
my hands.
it's
That's
okay.
the
Well,
one thing I
maybe there was
wanted to
microwave
comment.
interference, and that's why there's so few viewers.
Yeah, yeah. So, and we got a comment. We did. We got an organic comment from a viewer. Hooray! You got a cheer. And it said,
That I
it
didn't see the
said,
comment.
it said, Miles. It said, "You're lonely, aren't you?" Classic. I
Class,
don't
yeah.
know if that
That's
sounds like
classic.
innocuous enough. It sounds like half troll, but then again, not me. It's just
Definitely have troll,
I
yes.
don't know what it means. I don't know what that's supposed to mean in relation to the video because I'm not that lonely around
But
here.
this is
I
the
mean,
thing, he's probably about as clueless as to what you're actually feeling and actually, trying to achieve as you are about what he is. I mean, he says,
yeah,
"You're really lonely,
yeah,
aren't you?" And he doesn't really know what he's talking about. He's basically just trying to get a rise out of you, or
maybe.
maybe he
That's,
really means it. Maybe he really is like an
I
established,
don't know.
well-known psychiatrist or psychologist,
Yeah,
and he's diagnosing
that's the
you.
thing.
If you could
That's
be
the thing you
diagnosed
don't
with
know. But
loneliness.
actually, I'm not that lonely. I lack like like close peer contact around here, but I
You
don't.
should get down to the
I
water
checked
then if
their
you're lacking close peer contact.
peer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a
So
bad
I
pun.
checked their.
Sorry.
That reminds me of something, some corny joke I was gonna tell some other time. Do you remember that? Forget what it was now. But
I
anyway,
don't
it'll come
recall.
back to mind. But this so you just don't know. It's like, you follow, like, you get one comment on your channel, and so you go and you see who this person is. You click on their YouTube channel, and it's like I don't know. It's
Well,
like they
that's
show
yeah.
some kind of Google. They have all these photos of like this Google, like Google Street View with arrows, those Google Street View arrows on the street and stuff, and it has house numbers, and it's like, how in the world? Like, I don't know how this person even found the video, but I mean, it's if you're into microwave mind control, you know what? I think it's completely, it's not bogus, but and it's not made up, but I think it's completely false. I don't believe it at all.
Wait,
But
what
a
do you
good
mean? First you said uh wait, you said that it's not completely made up, but it's false. What does that mean
yeah,
exactly?
no, he believes it. He's not making it up to
Oh, I
tell a
see what you
story.
mean. Oh, I see.
See,
So his
see,
belief is not made up. Yeah, I see what you mean. Okay.
yeah, he's genuine about what he was saying.
Right.
And I've even asked him about it. If it's hard to believe this isn't a joke. And he, matter of factly, he says, I wish it was. He says, I wish it
Hmm.
was a joke. And but he really thinks that the Vietnamese government with the intelligence agencies is in on this. So you might want to. I checked the total view time on that video. It's like 38
I'm
seconds.
being a bit of a
Person
grammar
left a
Ponzi, but yeah, I don't know. Like I know it's supposed to. Yeah, I wish it was, but there's that little grammar Ponzi. I know it's something
yeah,
else, but I can't say it on
I
this
wish it
channel.
were.
I wish. Yeah, right. So I mean, it's
I
so
know,
absurd
but
because I
see,
real in at this point in colloquial English, this is pretty accepted at this point. So
yeah, I
I do
thought so too.
apologize. It's just that I have a bit
I
of
was,
a
no,
uh,
it's, I see, I would have said,
a
I
screw
wish it
loose.
were. I would have said, I wish it were myself, but when I'm quoting somebody else in a way that I find acceptable, I don't say anything. So that's why,
Absolutely.
that's why I
Wait,
got through.
so Paul, can I just say, so you notice I said grammar Ponzi, right? As in Ponzi scheme.
Oh,
Oh, so I wanted to
yeah.
point that out. That's what I mean about making sure that we don't get demonetized. So you come up with these sort of
Yeah,
silly they're called maybe nonces, Nonces. I don't know if that exactly is the right term,
nuances.
but uh like nonce, or it's sort of a slight, you know, change, or I would say, what's the word, variation on the actual term. But I can't,
Mhm.
I don't know if I can say that word on this channel in that context. I'm not
Yeah.
sure how that works. That is to say,
Well,
you
let's not
understand
worry
what
too much.
I mean, you understand that what I'm replacing Ponzi with, right?
Yeah,
So I'm
he's
avoiding
on.
that. I don't know if that, but
He's
I
on.
think that we actually have to, as I said, we should be careful about it because uh while on the one hand we really want to just say what we are thinking and what we feel. I'm a firm believer in freedom of speech, but on the other hand, if we get demonetized, we're going to be dependent on Patreon and some of these other platforms, which is not so
Yeah,
bad, but then
yeah.
that's a further removal from the immediate interaction with your
Well,
YouTube viewers, which I think complicates matters. If you can keep yourself monetized, that's
mhm,
probably preferable because the point of contact between you and your viewers will be immediate rather than being removed and then further removed by
yeah.
being
Now,
across websites.
monetization, Miles, is a far off, very,
Monetization, schmonetization,
it's a far off, very, very lofty goal.
far
You know
off,
what?
schmar off.
The only thing I've come to see it as more like we're gonna keep doing this almost. I have something to tell more about this, but we're gonna keep doing this more as just a way to just like as a protest against all the forces that say give up and don't do it. There's 50 million reasons not to do it.
Well,
And I was just gonna say
that
that
is what this is for sure.
I was almost today for a few hours at least. I really felt like just coming on or in chat or something, just telling you, you know what, Miles, I don't want to do this. well, not that I don't want to do this, but it's like, you know what? I'm just not capable now. I don't have it in me because for one thing, I don't have the status. I don't really have an income right now, and people are gonna see that. Like you can't hide who you are. People need to see a higher status or something. People need to see somebody who can at least pretend that they're better than them or has some social status. And I'm just the lowest of the low, and people are gonna know. You can't hide it. Blah blah blah. Nobody's gonna
But
watch.
but
We're just gonna
Paul, I have to
attract
say,
trolls.
it's the
Yeah,
complete. I'm so my feeling is the complete opposite of that. I think that Hollywood is an excellent counterexample to what you're saying. Because
Hollywood.
yes,
People don't like
because
Hollywood anymore.
no, I'm saying no, it has nothing to do with whether I like it or not. The issue is that the all of these people are actors, and who they are in the roles they play on the screen is a far cry from who they are in real life. And there can be, there are plenty of occasions where you come across actors who are now quite famous, but who say or are reported as being, say, homeless. They were living out of a van or something, although that's kind of a home.
Yeah.
Uh, Especially if you ask van lifers, but that's another story. I realize that's not the same thing. Living out of a van and being a van lifer is not the same thing. But anyway, the point is that, people were considered homeless, or they were just sort of going from one, pay by the day motel to the next on this in Skid Row or on Skid
Yeah.
Row. Uh, and then they became famous film celebs over the years, but they were given that big break, and they got a role while they were essentially homeless, and they were acting while homeless, and yet you would have no concept of any of that they're homeless and that they are
Yeah.
having a terrible
Exactly.
time on screen, because they could be playing a millionaire on the screen and you would absolutely believe it if they are a good enough actor, if they are what
Right.
you call a believable actor, if they are capable of providing you the that suspension of disbelief, or I should say, not providing you, but inspiring in you that suspension of disbelief, which sort of transforms not merely into a suspension of disbelief, it transcends that, and then you suddenly find yourself almost kind of believing in a way, not merely suspending your disbelief in the character that they're playing. You forget for a moment that what you're watching is not real. And in a way, in terms of how your brain works, there may not be a huge difference between what seems real and what actually is real, experientially, anyway, if not
Jim
objectively.
Carrey didn't have to tell everybody that he had been homeless. I think it could have just been a rumor, or maybe the general population, unless they were really snoopy or gossipy, may have never known. It's common knowledge now because he didn't mind telling everybody. And like myself right now, I don't mind telling everybody because I don't see any shame in it anymore, given what I know about the economy and everything. But I'm not earning an income. In fact, we're waiting to buy goats so we can breed goats in the Philippines.
Yeah,
I mean
yeah.
in the Philippines, right? And
What a
I'm expecting,
segue. What a
and
segue.
it's like
We're talking about
if
Hollywood, and then like, yeah, and then we're gonna breed goats.
well,
That's great.
well, it's related through Jim Carrey. He was actually worse off than I am now.
Right. I see
He
what you
was
mean.
actually, I think Jim Carrey was worse off than I've ever been. I've known people who've said things like, "I haven't eaten for a couple of days." There have been times when I haven't eaten for a couple of days at least, or something. I've never had that. I've always had a meal, and so I, and but just friends of mine, like even an English teacher in China said he had something like an egg a day one time. I'm like, I have never gone hungry. And
Yeah, I've
so
had
that's
times.
wow. Wow. Well, I have no idea what that's like. I will voluntarily fast for the benefits. So
Yeah.
it may actually be beneficial to people. I think if you're in that situation, the benefits of fasting do kick in. So we're not we're not in the ages where humans would look for food when they were hungry. It's more like we have to position ourselves so we can get food. But still, this I think the same benefits of the brain mechanisms uh, that kick in during fasting help you do either one, help you find game or gather nuts and berries, search better if you're actually directly finding food. But in our day and age in civilization, I think those same mechanisms will also help you be more motivated, get a job, I guess, if you don't have one. Or
It's an
so
interesting idea. Yeah.
so now, yeah, we are waiting for goats. And I don't see why I should be ashamed of that. It may actually show some strength because we
Ashamed.
did have I it, it might I don't see why I should be ashamed to say we're waiting from an investor. Tomorrow we'll be able to buy goats.
Right.
And
And it,
I
maybe
have
you should.
another investor who may be able to chip in. I don't know what kind of a cut he wants, but
Well, hold on. So can you explain to the viewers though about the point of having goats in the Philippines?
to breed and slaughter and
Right, but I
milk,
mean,
breed,
right,
slaughter, milk.
but I mean, is I don't know if people outside of the Philippines are aware of the market for goats. They might think it's just some
Oh,
random project.
no, no. Goats are in a lot of the world outside the US, goats are treated like cattle. They actually say the poor man's cattle. I don't see anything poor about it. We can get rich off goats. We can. But they're in smaller unit sizes, of course. They're
It's
smaller
also
animals.
curious
So on a
because
smaller scale.
goat
If
meat is often considered to be like I would say culturally more desirable than other forms of meat.
it's
Uh,
it's
in the
actually I
Middle
think
East, often we find that people prefer goat meat over other meats. Not all the time. I mean, it depends on what you're what you're eating, but there is a kind of familiarity you could say with goat meat where it sometimes doesn't exist as much in many other places. Well, it does exist, but it
it's the
has a different
world's most it's the most eaten meat in the world. I thought it was beef, but no. I
where
just
did you
looked it up because I didn't know anything about goats. I'm
wait,
just
where
like
did
the
you
next
find that?
guy
Where did you find that? That's interesting.
somewhere on the internet.
Well,
It
you
said
have to,
it's
but you have to
the
provide
most
where it's from, though.
yeah.
You have to decide, you have to make a citation.
I'll just say it's eaten more than I expected. It sounds like an exotic, obscure animal. To us in the US it is, but I think it's pretty safe to say just
Wait, us in the U.S.,
it's
you're in the
it's
Philippines right now.
yeah. So I see
You're
goats around.
you're
Actually,
talking like you're
neighbors have
there.
some goats. Well, the neighbors have some goats. The neighbors down the street have some goats. But what I'm interested in is the exponent. I don't really care how poor we are right now. I mean, poor is relative.
Yeah,
It's
it
like
is. It very,
uh,
verily is.
you and you have to be grateful for what you have anyway. Uh, so I'm worried. I'm not worried, but I care about the exponent. How fast can we breed them? Which brings me to a point I'm considering as a business strategy. Would it make more sense to to breed rabbits, which multiply very fast? You can be sure to be at full
Well,
capacity for
that's the
all your
proverbial
rabbit
truth,
cages.
yes.
Yeah,
Breed.
rabbits multiply like rabbits, so you can be at full capacity, whatever your capacity is. You can be there in no time for your capacity to house rabbits. So
Right.
tremendous upshot of rabbits. The only thing is, rabbits don't. There's not as much demand
What do you
for
call
them.
a rabbit cage, by the way?
Just a rabbit cage. Do you know another word?
Isn't it a hutch?
Very well, maybe. I don't really see. The thing is, I'm trying to weigh
It
because I
just
don't even know what the
it brings
market
to
is.
it brings to mind. I don't know if it's a cage. It's more like a little closed off habitat. I don't know. Anyway,
Hutch could
it
be.
brings back this memory. We had an all black rabbit when I was a child, and it was in its
Mm,
cage. It wasn't a hutch. It was like an actual cage, and
mm.
we had a dog as well. It was sort of like I think it was a cross between a golden retriever and a German Shepherd, and he was called Jet. He had this jet-like mark on his head, and he was a very sly and temperamental dog. He had quite a personality. It was I don't know. He was almost like I don't know. There was something about him that was almost like Burt Reynolds or something. I don't know. He was cool in that way. Anyway,
Burt
Jet
dog
was
was like
running
Burt
around.
Reynolds.
Yes, yes.
The
So Bark
hair.
Reynolds. But so no, not with the hair. He didn't have Burt
Oh,
Reynolds' mustache on his snout.
oh,
But but I mean, although that'd be an interesting breed. Speaking of breeding, but anyway, what I'm saying is that we came home one day and we discovered the cage top was open, and it looks like Jet the dog had opened the cage top with his snout, and he had licked the rabbit until it was just this dripping ball of dog saliva. And the rabbit, this little tiny diminutive black rabbit, was just shivering out of intense fear. Like, and we just discovered this with the cage top open, and we like he for sure thought he was going to be devoured by the dog, and we
oh,
were amazed that all he had done was just lick him to a lickety pulp. I mean, that,
the dog
that,
just licked the rabbit.
yeah, like
Wow.
all around, like a lollipop. I mean,
You know,
or
y-
down to the
the
bud of of an ice cream, uh,
I think the all black rabbits
popsicle.
are the all black rabbits are preferred for their pelts because I guess it's because you can stitch them together into a wider fabric area
Black
without changing
rabbit,
color. Black
black
rabbit,
rabbit,
yeah.
Technicolor
Black
coats.
rabbit, black rabbit pelts will sell better. But that's another business decision. If you're gonna
Wait, they would
selling
sell in the
pelts,
Philippines though? Black pelt.
yeah, I'm sure there is some market, but I'm pretty sure we would have to get a slow boat to export. But
Yeah.
if we really
Well,
wanted to go into that, but
so Paul, I just have to say we're now at the
yeah,
25-minute mark. I wanted to ask,
okay,
aside
yeah.
from goats and rabbits, which is actually quite
Mm.
interesting, I have to say. But I think also it's a question about the structure of the show. Like on the one hand, we do
Ah,
want to talk about things that are happening in our own lives, but I also
yeah,
think that our viewers might be interested as well in talking about strange phenomena in the greater world, things that are
yeah,
mysterious.
yeah.
That I mean, I think it
What
is
is going on?
mysterious. Goats
Mm.
and rabbits,
Well,
I think is an alien business to a lot of people.
I'm trying to use.
I I myself am a
I'm trying to
vegetarian.
use my psychic powers. Yeah, you're a
Well,
vegetarian.
I myself am a vegetarian, and also because of my religious background, I have a certain um, connection to kashrut, or being kosher. So on the one hand, if it's goats,
Mm.
for example, goat
Rabbit is
slaughter.
kosher.
What?
Mhm. I think rabbit is kosher. Goat is kosher.
But this is the problem, though, that it's even if you have a kosher animal, that is to say that according to the Hebrew Bible, the Tanakh, it is listed as a kosher animal. The problem is that if it's not slaughtered according to the laws of what's called
Mm.
shchita or shchita, it's considered not to be kosher. It has to be slaughtered, and the proper prayers have to be said. It has to be done in a very particular manner. If it's not, it's
Yeah.
rendered what's called treif, or unclean, and it's not fit for consumption. The other thing,
You
it has to be
know,
drained of blood
mm,
as
you know
well.
what?
Uh,
That's
but
interesting.
but that's the
Yeah.
thing. I'm vegetarian anyway, so I wouldn't be eating, even if it were kosher, according to halacha or Jewish law. I wouldn't be eating it personally. All right, looks like
Oh, you
we have the
are? How is your vegetarian practice going?
how is my vegetarian practices,
Yeah, is that
or
are
how
you
are
able
they?
to do it fairly easily or
Yeah,
is
here
it
for
difficult?
here for sure. Um, hey, hey, Yardenush. So yeah, I would say it's very easy here. It has one of the highest per capita rates of veganism, or uh, I'm not sure about vegetarianism, but veganism for sure in the world. We have a lot of vegan restaurants and a lot of restaurants with vegan options. Uh, like, I'm not a vegan, but I am a vegetarian. I was vegan for a time
Ah,
uh, in the past, but I very carefully considered it but I would say I don't eat a lot of dairy though. In any case, I am a bit averse to it. So I will
mm.
eat it from time to time. Uh, but because I have I have health reservations largely about dairy items. That's another story we can talk about, which
Mm.
on the one hand, it's important protein wise, and there are a number of other considerations, but there are
Well, you
other
bring up a good
indicators
point.
which it may, well, we'll get to diet another time, I think. So
Yeah,
apart
about the
from that though,
kosher
we
and Troy Fed or whatever.
tarif, yeah. Wait, so
Treif.
what was the
It's an
question?
interesting
Sorry.
point. It's an interesting point because the meeting will end in 10 minutes. It's an
Yeah.
interesting point because I think when you're starting a business, one of the most important things, or any livelihood, one of the most important things is start with your values. What are your values? Are you going to take a Sabbath on your work? I don't know if you if you can take a Sabbath milking goats, but whenever you can take a Sabbath, are you going to? Uh, what kind of integrity will you follow?
Do you,
What are your morals? What are the greater? You have to lay out what are the greater ends that you hope
well,
to achieve with
my
this. Now, I
my
can just go ahead and say rapid growth and lots of money,
well, let
but
me
I
ask
don't
you.
know if that's really the
I have a que
wisest thing.
Well, let me ask you though. It seems to me that in the Philippines, the majority are Roman Catholic.
Yeah,
Uh, Now, do
I'm
you
not
happen to know,
affiliated.
is there a sizable Muslim minority anywhere nearby?
Oh yes, oh yes.
So that's a question then, because
That might
if
be a goat
it,
market.
so if well right, so that's the question. If you were to make it halal, which I don't know exactly what that would require, you would have to have it would have to you would have to interact with local Muslim
Yeah,
authorities to do
that's a
so. But
good point. Would we sell to the Muslims?
what I'm
I don't
saying though
I
is,
don't have anything against it.
if it were halal, would that also be eaten by the local Roman Catholics? It seems to me that they would. Uh, but then it would also be suitable for the Muslim market as well. It would not be suitable for Jews following Jewish law or halacha, but I don't think that there is a gigantic market for that nearby. I mean, there are definitely Jews in the Philippines, but I think that their kosher needs are pretty much taken care of at this point. But the
Yeah,
halal market
so
could actually, it might, that's an interesting consideration, because if it's not halal, then any religious Muslim is not going to partake of that meat, and you're going to close out that
Mm.
demographic
So
from your consumer
maybe
base.
maybe we could have a Muslim come and inspect our facilities and make sure it is
Well, it
halal.
would be a
I-
bit more complicated than that. You'd have to actually, it's a bit of a process. I happen to know a little
Mm,
bit about this because
mm,
of my background in comparative religions, but also because of where I live in the Levant, where
yeah.
Judaism and Islam and Christianity, among other religions, live closely side by side. And anybody who wants to do a little bit of research is able to find out with, not too much difficulty some of these rules and requirements with regard to kashrut or Jewish dietary laws and halal, which is uh,
Yeah, that's the thing, Miles. I
Muslim
mean,
dietary laws.
as much of a business as this is to me, we're also growing food for people to eat, which is
Yeah,
in itself a sacred thing. People pray over meals, people prepare meat in different ways. Some people even refuse to eat meat.
yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely like you can't really just start off saying, I want to multiply and make gains and I want to be rich. I just want to be rich. I don't care. You can't really just
I like
do
that
that.
character. I like this
You
character.
can't, you can't.
Oh, that's great, Paul.
Yeah. Steve Martin on Leap of Faith,
Oh yeah.
having he was actually irreligious, but he was like pretending to be religious. I
Yeah.
could do that. I
Another
could just
example of acting.
total businessman. Yeah, total businessman about it. To be like, you know, just it. But I saw the thing that reminded me of this happened to be a video I saw about business, and they mentioned Chick-fil-A with
Yeah.
regards to
This is
their
a famous
value.
example. Famous example.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A, and isn't it coincidental though that they are in food service? So I mean, it doesn't really surprise me that much that a business that would have a strong moral background, strong principles, a very principled business would be in food service. I don't think you can really get the sacredness out of food. I don't want to say by name, Mick, whatever, tries as hard as they can, but I don't think you can really you know, really just package it down to just hamburgers wrapped in presents with a clown. It's like you
Yeah,
can't.
that's an interesting point. I mean, I'm not sure. I think obviously it's possible to completely unpack sacredness in terms of practice. I mean, you can have the most irreligious, atheistic person on earth, even though atheism sometimes has what I would call quasi-religious aspects in terms of how it's practiced. Um, I'm not really
Mm,
sure that complete a-religiousness is really possible for the
I,
human brain, but
I,
that's another discussion.
what?
Hold
That
on,
reminds me.
because I think that
Yeah.
people in the supposed lack of religion, some other strong kind of framework takes its place almost necessarily for anybody who, that is to say, for anybody who has a brain that is capable of religion, but then they reject it or they just don't have any need or felt need for it. Something else is bound to replace it. I don't know if it's possible that it will go unreplaced by
So
communism,
that
by what
perfect,
have you.
perfect point. Do you think maybe Ronald McDonald was kind of a messiah character in 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 place of
All
the
hail
real?
the Ronald McDonald.
Because you can't really separate religion and food. I don't think you
Well,
can
I think I
completely.
see what you're saying. It's just
So,
that I think that I think that you can technically, you know, absolve food of religion by simply not thinking about it or rejecting it to a degree. That is to say that
oh,
you believe anyway
yeah,
that you have
yeah,
de-religified food,
but think
but
about this.
but
Could
I mean in a more general sense, as you're eating, as you're sorry to interrupt you, but how you feel about it while you're actually consuming, even if you're completely a-religious or anti-religious. The question is it not a religious experience to eat in and of itself?
Well, would
That's
you
what
say
I.
the same thing for S3X? Can that be completely irreligious? I don't think so. I really don't. I don't.
Well, in the sense that I've said about the food, I would agree. Yeah.
About
I'm.
the yeah
We have 2 minutes, about a little more than 2 minutes. So before we
yeah
close this particular test episode of Pandooradom, and the reason I say test is because what I envision anyway is I want to make sure that we talk about in the non-test episodes mysteries, or the sort of the things
yeah.
that we set out. What I believe is there are some channels that I really like. Can Am, 411, Mr.
Mm,
Politis. He's a great create. He's quite an amazing content creator and host. Uh, but he's like a conveyor. That's really the amazing skill that he has. But I just
yeah.
wanted to say that he talks about personal matters, especially at the beginning of his videos,
Mm,
and then he
yeah.
sort of gradually, or even rather suddenly, eases his way in to the
Yeah.
actual content of missing
Right.
persons in related items. And I believe that we can do something similar following that lead, that we might talk about some generally personal matters at the beginning of the video, and then
Yeah.
gradually or suddenly sort
So
of ease
as
our
time
way
goes
into
on,
the topic at
yeah, as
hand.
time goes on, I think that can develop and become a more succinct part of the show.
Well, but
Uh,
that's the thing. I don't believe that this is something that will just happen organically. I think that this is something that we have to enforce upon
to make
ourselves.
it, yeah, yeah, to make sure
This
you
is
don't
like
talk
method
too much
acting,
about it.
man. You gotta
Right.
get
That's
yourself
fine. That's fine.
into the. It's
Yeah.
not just
Right
gonna
now,
happen
I
by itself.
yeah, I see what you're saying. Right now, I think we're more in the, I would call a protest or stand your ground phase, where the most important thing is to just make sure you don't let the trolls get you down. If there are any, I don't even know.
Well, we haven't even
Just,
gotten to the trolls yet, barely. I mean,
yeah,
we
we
have
haven't even
one
gotten to the
minor
trolls.
troll.
Just keep going. Yeah, you
Bring
have
me
some
more
good trolls.
trolls.
Yep,
Bring me more.